You don't believe in magic, you'd say that confidently. You'd probably stake something on it. And I think you're right. Not in the way a child believes the moon is following your car, not in the way that bad things happen, because you were bad first. That version of it you left behind, but there's an experiment that's harder to walk away from. Paul Rosen, a psychologist at Penn, ran a series of studies in the 1980s. He'd hand someone a glass of juice, clean, normal, perfectly fine, and ask them to drink it. They would. Then he'd sterilize a cockroach. Completely. No bacteria, no contamination, no trace of anything that would harm you. He'd stir it briefly into the glass, remove it, then ask again, "Would you drink it now?" Most people wouldn't, and the truly strange part wasn't the refusal. It was what happened when he asked why. People knew the juice was safe. They said so. They could explain, correctly, that a sterilized insect leaves no biological residue whatsoever, and then they'd push the glass away anyway. That gap between what you know and what your body will let you do is not a glitch waiting to be fixed by more information. It's something older than information. Something the mind does deliberately, or at least systematically, in response to a specific set of conditions. Those conditions are not conditions any amount of education makes you immune to. The comfortable version of this goes, magical thinking is what children do. Piaget mapped it out in the 1920s, animism, he called it. The child's instinct to find intention everywhere. Wind that resists you, stairs that trip you deliberately. A world full of agents, all watching, all authored by someone, for someone. Children grow, they learn cause and effect. The animism fades. The rational adult emerges with a firm grip on probability and a healthy skepticism about invisible forces. That story is neat. It's also doing a lot of work to stay that neat. But before I say where it breaks, picture something. A phone, a specific contact that's been sitting in your list for years. Someone who's gone. You know what the phone is. You know the line is dead, and still, you have not deleted the name. You have a reason ready, sentimental, or you just haven't gotten around to it. Both are probably true. Neither is the whole explanation. We'll come back to the phone. Piaget was right about children. They do build the world this way. Animism, the belief that objects hold intention. Artificialism, the belief that natural things were made by someone for a reason. The river exists because someone needed a river. The mountain was placed there. The rain fell because someone, somewhere, is angry. This isn't stupidity. It's the most efficient assumption a developing mind can make about a world it hasn't mapped yet. If everything has intention, then everything is readable. If the rain falls because someone is angry, it can be stopped by someone less angry. Helplessness is unbearable, and animism is the first answer to it. It gives the child leverage over a world that would otherwise be indifferent and enormous. The child grows. The animism fades. We get the rational adult. Except Tversky and Kahneman spent decades watching rational adults make decisions under uncertainty. And what they found wasn't reassuring. What they documented, and what they called the representativeness heuristic, was that when adults assess probability, they don't actually calculate. They ask a different question, faster, below the level of intention. How much does this resemble a pattern I already know? How familiar does it look? The more something resembles the expected case, the more probable it feels. That sounds like a statistical quirk until you see the logic underneath it. What it means is that the adult mind, careful, credentialed, post-Piaget, consistently acts as if resemblance implies connection. As if two similar things share something. As if the copy carries some of the original. James George Frazer named this in 1890. He called it the law of similarity. Like produces like. The voodoo doll operates on this principle. The effigy holds something of the person it resembles. The portrait is not just paint. Frazer called it sympathetic magic, and he documented it across hundreds of cultures, treating it as evidence of what pre-scientific peoples believed before they knew better. What Tversky and Kahneman found, nearly a century later, was the same template running under every decision their subjects made. Not in ritual, in hospitals, in financial forecasting, in legal testimony. The same logic, similarity implies connection, contact leaves residue, just wearing different clothes. The magic was never in the ritual. It was in the reasoning. Fraser had a second law: contagion. The idea that things once in contact remain, in some meaningful sense, in contact. That proximity leaves something behind. You feel this when you cannot sit in a dead person's chair. When you find their handwriting on an old note and have to set it down for a minute. When you cannot wear the coat even though it fits. These aren't irrational responses. The mind is following a logic it has always run on. That contact transmits something. That closeness leaves a trace. That objects carry the people who touch them. And in a way, not metaphysically but psychologically, they do. The chair your grandfather sat in every evening is not the same as a chair from a furniture store, and denying that would be its own kind of unreason. Here's the part that nobody quite says plainly, though. Magical thinking doesn't appear randomly. It concentrates. Studies on superstition in professional athletes show that rituals grow more elaborate as the stakes become less controllable. Not before practice, but before championship matches, penalty kicks, surgeries with hard odds. Research on intrusive thought shows the same inversion. People who feel most out of control are most likely to believe their thoughts can cause events. I thought about the accident, and then the accident happened. The thought had weight. There's a clinical name for the most acute version of this. But set the diagnosis aside for a moment. What the thought-to-event connection actually represents is the mind trying to restore agency in a world that has momentarily stopped responding. If my thought caused it, then my thought can prevent the next one. Helplessness answered, incorrectly, sometimes painfully, but answered. I'm genuinely not sure what to do with that, whether it makes magical thinking more understandable, or more troubling, or both at once. Maybe both at once is correct. What I do know is that Piaget was watching the same move. Animism is not a phase that education erases. It is the mind's first, most persistent response to a problem that education does not solve. The feeling that the world is too large, too indifferent, too unpredictable to hold. That response goes quiet in ordinary life. It waits. And then something shifts. A death, a diagnosis, a failure you didn't see coming. And it's back. Faster than your doubt. Older than your vocabulary for it. You don't grow out of magical thinking. You grow into longer stretches where you don't need it. The phone, that name sitting in your contacts. You know what the device is. You know the network is infrastructure, not passage. No one is going to pick up. And still, the name is there, right between someone you called last Tuesday and someone you'll call next week. Still present, still in the list. There's no ghost in the phone. But there is something. The refusal to complete the erasure. The feeling, below any easy articulation, that deleting the contact is the real death. The second one, the one you'd be choosing. Which is not logical, which is also, if you felt it, completely true. That isn't you failing to think straight. That's the contagion law, running quietly under grief. That's the part of you that has always understood contact as a kind of bond. That where there was proximity, something persists. Fraser documented it in the rituals of people he called primitive. Kahneman found it in the spreadsheets of people who considered themselves rational. It's the same architecture. It was never about whether you were educated enough to escape it. Magical thinking doesn't mean you believe in magic. It means you carry a mind that was built for a world genuinely full of uncertainty. A world where reading patterns into events could save your life. Where proximity mattered. Where the question of whether the rain was random or intentional was not yet settled. That mind is still yours. It still runs the same logic, quietly, under the data. Most of the time the data is enough, and then the ground shifts and there it is again. Older than your doubt, faster than your correction. Maybe the interesting question isn't how to finally get past it. Maybe the question is what it's trying to do, every time it shows up.